And we are live. Hello and welcome to Molby On The Spot here on our new YouTube channel at Anfield Index. And I am joined, of course, by the Liverpool legend, your friend of mine, Mr. Jan Molby. How are you, Jan?
Excellent, Trevor, and good to have you back.
Yes, mate. I was in a bit of a bad way there with the old back. And to be honest with you, this isn't me. This is some sort of drugged up version. So I'm
Really?
liable to say anything, buddy. We'll see where it goes. But for now, we'll crack on. There's so much I want to chat to you about, man. So many different stories, and we can't really do anything other than start with the big thing that has happened between now and when you and I last spoke, which is the Trent story. The timing of it is fascinating. Really fascinating. I think I've put together, or most people I think I've put together why it happened the way it happened. But I'd be very interested in your take, because you're in a position to hear things that we mightn't hear. Let's just start there. What did you make of? Let's just take for granted he's going. Most of us knew that was going to happen. Let's just take that out of it. The timing of it, the nature of it with the video and all that kind of stuff. What did you make of the whole thing?
Oh, you're asking me. You're asking me about the video, Trevor, and you're asking about things that kind of belongs on social media, and you kind of know how I feel about most of them things, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we? I don't know. I look at that video and I go, was there really any need? Where was the clarity in that in terms of from the fans' point of view? And yeah, of course, he said all the right things in it. This is the most difficult decision I've ever had to make, blah blah. In terms of the timing, Trevor, I don't know what conclusion you come to, but I just wonder whether there was a momentum building towards more and more people thinking he was staying. We had the celebrations after the Leicester goal. Then we obviously had the celebration when we won the title against Tottenham, and I'm hearing more and more people. And again, I didn't see it. I just didn't see what other people were seeing. And I guess sometimes you see what you maybe want to see, don't you? I think we've described the Leicester goal. What did that look to me? It looked to me like somebody who just scored a goal that might win the club that you love. Yeah, I know that's a big word, but it is his club, innit? Win the title. And at Anfield against Spurs, he celebrated like somebody who just won the Premier League for the second time with the club he'd been at for 20 years. I just didn't see anything other than that. But there was some momentum carrying, wasn't it? People had seen all sorts, and Trent had been in discussion with people, and you had lib readers, and I was totally distant from all that. You know what I mean, Trevor? Because I just didn't see it. There's been other incidents where you kind of see things that doesn't come through. But in this, and I said this a while ago on the show, Trevor, remember, if he wasn't going to go to Real Madrid, Trent, it would have been some job the Trent Alexander-Arnold family would have done on Real Madrid, wouldn't it? Because Real Madrid had believed for a long, long time that he was coming. And I know that because I've probably done Real Madrid 3 or 4 times this season in the Champions League. And you speak to people like we speak to people at Anfield. You do the same with Real Madriders, and they all went, oh, no, it's okay, he's coming here, And I have no reason not to believe that. But I'm interested in terms of where you landed in terms of the timing and what significance you put on that.
Well, you've brought it somewhere that I didn't think of, and as usual, it's a really good take because you're right. There was momentum building. But what has happened in the interim is we've heard this story about how Real would like to have him for the Club World Cup and how they're willing to pay a little bit of compensation to Liverpool for the joy of having Trent a bit earlier and released from his contract before the 30th of June, because that competition starts in June. So if that was going to break, then he had to get out ahead of it, because otherwise, why not do it on the last game of the season? When we're all still a bit high from looking at pictures with a trophy in it. Or why not do it when he was the hero and had clinched the thing and could go out in with that as his like final impression that he made, instead of a really lackluster half and then, you know, sighing an emotional video where he talks about the club he loves and all that crack. The hardest decision ever. So I wonder, Jan, maybe I'm too cynical, but I wonder, would that have, so does that make sense to you that that could be at least part of the reason that he had to get out ahead of what was going to break in terms of, you know, the club wanting, his new club wanting him early?
Yeah, I mean, there's every reason for that, and you know, that is a fact, isn't it? You know, that's not something we're making up. A lot of times we try and guess, but in terms of that, we're not making it up, are we? I mean, Real Madrid, this is a massive tournament for them. This World Championship, it's a massive tournament for Real Madrid. It's a massive tournament for their president, isn't it? You know, I mean, they're taking it serious because they kind of see themselves as, you know, we would also like to be the first club to win that title, isn't it? And that's how they see themselves, isn't it? You know, I mean, going back all the way back to the 1955 or whenever it was that the European Cup stroke Champions League started, and so it's a big thing for them. And of course, they're landing Trent Alexander-Arnold. They're not going to go and play in that tournament without him. That's for sure, isn't it? Because that's just not how Real Madrid do things. You know, to be fair to Real Madrid, when they turn up with everybody, don't they? You know, they always play them all because of this, like, Harlem Globetrotter sort of, you know, feel they have about themselves, isn't it? You know, people who come to see us and we turn up with all our players. And so, yeah, maybe that is a reason. I don't quite know whether we'll ever get to the bottom of any of this, Trevor. I just sometimes feel that years ago it was a little bit easier, wasn't it? Because eventually somebody would sit down with a reporter, and whether that would be the written press or TV or radio, and the player would then tell the story. You know, and I guess we're probably never going to get the privilege with this whole Trent thing. You know, when did it all start? I mean, I saw somebody suggest that this started 4 years ago when he signed his contract, and Liverpool never stood a chance. You know, that he was always going to look to do something else. Then there's obviously the timing. People talk about the international break in March is when he informed Arne Slot that he wasn't going to be at Liverpool next year. So, but again, it's well informed journalists who are writing these stories. But we would like Trent to say it, wouldn't we? We would like Trent to look at Trent while he tells us in it, because there is so many fascinating things involved in all this, and also. And whether he would ever be that honest, I don't know. But whether he also, during this time, ever thought, well, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to change my mind, or, you know, it is fascinating. I mean, so I think if you'd have gone to Real Madrid 10 years ago as a Liverpool player, you kind of go, well, okay, we're not at the level. Fair enough. But now we are at the level, aren't we? You know, and that's another disappointment, isn't it? You know, we are almost Real Madrid's equal. Not over time with the European Cup, but over the last few years, we're equal with them now, isn't it? And I guess that's another thing that maybe hurts a little bit. 10 years ago, fine, yeah, off you go. We can't compete at that level, but now we can.
That's a really good point. A lot of people talking about how, you know, at least he's not signing for a rival, but what are Real Madrid if they're not rivals for European supremacy? And we'd like to think we're going to be still there. And maybe with the learning process, Arne Slot's next big win will be in that competition. That's what we hope. But, you know, if you're to listen to the rumors of who Real Madrid are going for next, they're not just going to stop there. They've been linked with our centre-half Kanate. They've been linked with Saliba. You name it, they're linked with them. So it's going to be further accruing.
Well, you know why that is, Trevor? Because there's a general feeling that the president puts a squad together at Real Madrid, yeah? And he's come under criticism because he's ignored the defensive side of the squad. And you know what it's like? It's the same reason that most managers get the sack, is that once the owner stroke chairman come under pressure, they sack the manager. That's like kind of their get out, isn't it? So now he's coming under pressure because he hasn't put the squad together the way that, I'm not sure Ancelotti cares, but the way that the Real Madrid fans look and go, you left us short. So, and I said this, we did this on this show, Trevor, when somebody said to me, Real Madrid should sign Virgil van Dijk on a free. I said, it's not Virgil they want. It's Konate they want. You know, perfect profile, young. He's now coming up to 12 months left of his contract. That's who they're going to go for, surely. If they're going to go for any Liverpool players, it's going to be Konate, isn't it? And here we are, being linked with not only them, but also PSG, who are probably also starting to look for the replacement for Marquinhos. You know, so what do we do then, Trevor? Because we can't afford this to go on. You know, I know in terms of Trent has not cost us 50 million in transfer fees or whatever, but we can't afford our better players to walk out the door for nothing, can we? So unless Konate is ready to commit, we have a decision to make with 12 months left in his contract.
I think that might be one of the ones that is going to turn people's heads a bit this summer. I think there's a real call to be made there, and apparently they're quite a ways away in terms of the valuation, what Ibu thinks he's worth versus what the club is willing to give. Now, again, limited information here that we have. It poses it's not a massive problem, but it poses a scenario for Klopp here, this Trent thing. Because now that it's been so publicized, and as you said, all of that little momentum that started to build about will he maybe stay, it completely flattened. That bubble burst. Do you see a situation where he plays again now between now and the end of the season? See, this is where, and you know, do you see a situation where he takes a fulsome part in the parade and all that type of thing? And I mean, you'll have insulated yourself quite a bit from the worst aspects of this, but let me tell you, there's a lot of Trent's a rat type of conversation going around, and I never can go towards that end of things. It's a young man's life. He can do what he wants with it. But I will say that I think most of us have been very disappointed in the way that he's gone about this particular move. So that's where an awful lot of people's begrudgery or animosity is coming from as well. I think that's reasonable. I think that's understandable. It just poses an interesting situation. I wonder, are you right? Was he doing his celebrations on the pitch that day? Because, you know, maybe he's not going to be as much a part of it now between now and the end of the season. Put your gaffer hat on. What would you do?
Yeah, I would play Conor Bradley because I think we don't know what potentially might happen in terms of reaction towards Trent. Now it's official, but we did see a little bit. I was at Stamford Bridge last Sunday, and I couldn't. But at Leicester, when he came on, you could hear some unhappy Liverpool fans, and then the whole end started to sing Liverpool, Liverpool, Liverpool to kind of drown out, the disappointment there was from some fans. So I don't know what he was like at Chelsea, and I don't know what the people said. So if I'm honest, Slot, I'm thinking, I don't know what the reaction's going to be. So we can take that out of the game by not playing him. And also, it's an easy excuse, really, isn't it? You know, Bradley's fit. He needs to get his body prepared to play games. So it would be an ideal situation to give him 3 and a bit games, because he had a bit of time at Chelsea as well. And so give him 3 and a bit games to finish the season off. You know, in that, there's nothing worse, Trevor, than finishing the season injured. I know Bradley's not injured at the moment. There's nothing worse, you know, when you finish the season injured. You want to finish the season playing, don't you? You know, and then, because then you kind of whole summer becomes about the next season, don't it? But sometimes when you finish the season injured or whatever, the summer becomes about rehab and other things, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I think it'd be important for Bradley to play the last 3 games, and then he'll finish the season and go, and now I can play a couple of games for Northern Ireland, and then I'm on the break ready for the next season, isn't it? So, yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense to give Bradley minutes, but also maybe taking that risk out the game that there might just be a reaction. I mean, the bit I'm hearing, and it's people I meet, you know, they're still talking about the Manchester United game in January, you know, and Trent's, and it was a bit of a bizarre game for me, that, because we had a studio on the touchline, so I was in the studio before the game, and then during the game, you sit in amongst the crowds. Normally, when we commentate, we sit up with earphones on, and you can't hear. But I was sitting sort of in amongst the crowds with Freddie Lundberg, and it was actually Freddie who went, "Wow." I went, "Yeah, this is getting a bit tasty, towards Trent." So there's still people harping back to the Man. That's when it all starts. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, having been a former player myself, I can sometimes go, all the poor kid did was have a bad game. We've all had bad games in it. And that's how I'd always like to excuse the players. Bloody hell, the kid had a bad game. It happens to everybody in it. But there's a lot of people who won't let that go, isn't it? They won't let that one go, So, as I said before, Trevor, it could be so much easy. Get him on here. Get him on Anfield Index. Come on, Trent. 20 minutes, 20. Even if 20 questions, you can only answer yes or no.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think you're right, though. I think it's the risk of something going a bit sour, of it being a bit ugly. I think they'll want to manage that, because nobody wants that. It's just, regardless of how strong you want to feel about the guy going, I think you and I have always said in this, it's a short career. You're going to do what you're going to do.
Yeah, but Trevor, you're pissed off. I can see that. And you're an intelligent guy, aren't you? So you can kind of weigh the two up, can't you? And you end somewhere in the middle, and you go, well, okay, let's move on, isn't it? But not everybody's that rational, are they? So it is a bit of a risk to play him, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could get a little bit ugly, and like I say, nobody wants that. The Conor Bradley thing, of course, is massively interesting. I see a few people in our comments talking about how they're very high on Conor as a straight up replacement. There is a reality with Conor Bradley that we have to face, which is that his availability hasn't been great. I think he's played less than half of the games that he's been around for. That's very real. That's a real thing. A lot of people dismiss that, Jan, and say, well, it's a young man, his body's developing. And some people say that that's a thing you can you outgrow it as such. Others are very, very cagey and cautious about that, because, availability is the best ability and all that kind of stuff. Where do you land on Conor do you see him as capable of stepping straight in? Obviously, let's not talk about creativity. Nobody compares to Trent Alexander-Arnold in that regard in world football, who plays in that position, if we're being perfectly honest. Although the kid at PSG last night looks pretty good, Hakimi. But the range of passing and all that, nobody's like Trent. So it's not a like for like. We get that. But Bradley is very strong going forward. He does offer a lot of impetus. He's just a very 100 miles an hour type of client, isn't he? By comparison with Trent, who's a bit more of a stroller. What do you think? Is he the heir apparent?
So, and it might not be a popular opinion, but Bradley will never be Trent. That's for sure. And the people who think are kidding themselves. We're talking about two different players. And I also think we discussed this on the show and how they play. So Trent is a passer. So Trent can pass the ball and give it away and be out of position. Whereas Conor Bradley's a carrier, isn't he? He carries the ball. So if he loses the ball, he is more often than not still close to the ball. He's still close to the situation. So his recovery will always be better. I mean, how many times have we criticised Trent for that? His recovery. But that's because sometimes he's trying to ping a 60-yard ball that gets intercepted and he's out of position. Bang. He can't get close. He can't get close to the ball. He can't get close to the man he's meant to mark, isn't it? And that's the difference. Whereas Conor with his carrying. If Liverpool do nothing else, Trevor, if they do nothing else in the transfer market, they will not start next season with only Conor Bradley as a right back option. If Liverpool are going to sign one player in the summer, it'll be a right back. I'll guarantee you that.
That's really interesting, because we have talked before about how left back could well be a priority. Andy Robertson's out there in the press trying to drum up a new contract for himself in terms of talking to people about giving him a bit of support, like Virgil got, like Mo got. It's a whole different ball game. But Robbo's Robbo. We spoke on the last show about his self-confidence is going to make sure that he's going to keep saying things like that. He believes he can still be the best man for the job next season. But you get the impression one of those two guys that are currently the options will move on. The right back situation, though, if you reckon it's likely, who do you like? The ones that are being mentioned are Kirkes for the far side and Frimpong for the right. And people who are familiar with Frimpong's game are very excited by his attacking prospects, but not at all by what he does defensively, claiming that he's more of a winger type. If we go for a different system, maybe we have a more defensive right back or a more defensive left back, and we split it a little bit. It depends really on who's signed for the opposite side. What do you think of the current availability of right backs? Is there anyone that's jumping out at you that might be a realistic get for us?
It's funny enough you should say that, because as much as I just said that if Liverpool, they will sign a right back, I haven't really looked into that much, but I have seen the Frimpong link, and I was like you. Whoa, I thought we were going down a different road because of marauding fullbacks. We've had, we had the two best marauding fullbacks in the game. They had an internal competition to create the most goals, most assists in Robbo and Trent, and then the new manager came and we changed the way that we used our fullbacks. So I find that link straight, although I do believe it's genuine. I do believe it's genuine that Liverpool are looking at Frimpong. I believe also has something to do with, yet again, a release clause. So it's an easy transfer for Liverpool to make. And he is one of those players, Trevor. If you watch Bayer Leverkusen play, he will probably be one of the first players you'll notice, because he's an all-action, incredibly quick guy who also weighs in with a few goals. But I like him. I just think that we're looking at a different type of right backs, and I don't know who that is. But that's how I view it. You know what I mean? I mean, for starters, he'd be no good set pieces defending far post, because he's no good in the air. But yeah, unbelievable. I mean, unbelievably quick, Trevor. And as I said before, I do believe the interest is real. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. It would not surprise me that Liverpool found a different type, who was less attack minded. And because you talked about different systems, but surely we're always going to play with a flat back four, aren't we? One of the reasons that Arne Slot came in and we weren't keen on Ruben Amorim and maybe even Alonso, isn't it? So surely we're always going to play with a back four. So we're going to need a right back that can also defend. So Frimpong, I believe, is genuine. I still struggle to get my head around it.
Maybe because of the release clause and the comparative value, there's a thought that he could be just a very valuable squad addition. Because, like you say, if the Kirkes rumours are true, we've just gone for two more marauding flank.
Yeah, true enough.
People who are,
But he looks more like a fullback.
Kirkes, yeah.
Yes, because you can have a fullback, and I think Andy Robertson's probably a perfect example. You can have a fullback, an attacking fullback that can still nearly almost be in the right position. Yeah. And I think this Kirkes thing, this Kirkes player is that player. And I also think that Liverpool like the fact that they also see improvement in him. I think they can see he's a good player already. But, sometimes you look at a player and you go, I'd like to see him in 18 months' time, because I believe, and I think he falls into that. So as much as I believe the Frimpong thing is for real, this is for real, Trevor. This is going to happen, I think. Kirkes is going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's just so much talk about it. I think just people are a little bit put off by the reported fee, but it is what it is, and maybe there's value to be gained elsewhere that you can offset it with. I just want to talk to you briefly about summer plans. We could go into details about the defence there, and we did kind of touch on it last week, because we've just mentioned Konate, and Konate is unsettled in terms of the contract, and who knows if the club is just going to draw a line and he's going to be the sacrificial victim in terms of, look, we can't give everyone massive money. Who knows? Andy Robertson wants to stay, but will he be kept on? The respected, inverted commas, journals are saying that he wants to stay on, and we're looking for someone to rival him for that position or to share the time, whatever. So that means probably the other man's going to go. Our Greek lad will be on his bike. Kwanzaa is being linked with a move to Newcastle. That won't go away as a rumour. And Joe Gomez, I think, will have to move because it could be an opportunity for us to get a half decent fee. And Joe, again, his availability is a massive issue. Fantastic footballer all as he is. So there's one area where there could be huge amounts going on. And the one solid link we had across the middle there was the Huijsen link. And I know probably like a lot of people that would have been an exciting one. And I'm sure you shared that opinion. But it looks like he's more heavily linked with Real at the moment. But it's all over the pitch, Jan. We can probably get in. We're being linked with the likes of Stiller for midfield. Maybe Frimpong will play more as a sort of in that area of midfield. But across the top is the next area, which could literally get decimated. Diaz could go. Nunez could go. Jota could go. I don't know that you can let three of them go. But that's where the heaviest links are, Jan, to lots of different players. When you look across the front line, you look at some of the proper number 9s that are available, the likes of Gyökeres. The Alvarez thing is the best story that broke during the week. You saw this, yeah? The idea of some sort of a let's massage the figures and do Darwin Núñez the other way. I think, and I know you've said on this show, he could be a perfect fit. Is there anyone else you really like the look of that is actually available? The likes of a Gyökeres, Isak, the likes of Sesko, Osimhen. What are you thinking there?
So if we just go back to Dean Huijsen first, Trevor, because you mentioned him and we've been heavily linked with him. I think that is a decision for the boy to make. I think already now, him and his camp are aware that we can basically pick. They'll all show an interest in him. So it's a decision he's going to make, isn't it? And although he's Dutch, but plays for the Spanish national team, whatever. Real Madrid would be a massive big pull for him. There's no doubt about that. So there's a decision to be made. In terms of the forwards, I think we might do something. Aston Villa did it in January. They made it clear that they were prepared to sell a striker. So they invited offers for both of them, John Duran and Ollie Watkins. And I think that we might be a little bit in the same boat. That we might be in a position where we would quite happy for people to make bids on some of our frontmen, and then we'll make a decision. Of course, we're not going to sell all of them, are we? We're not going to sell all of them, but then we'll have a look at it and see what makes the most sense. I've said before about Julian Alvarez, Atletico Madrid, Trevor, and it was a couple of weeks ago, and I said, and I've just had a new car. I said I'd go and get him myself, because yeah, but he's sometimes you just go. He's just rock solid, isn't he? You know what I mean? So he's played in the Premier League. He's South American, so he's got a bit of bite about him, isn't he? He's got class, hasn't he? He's a goal scorer. He's just got it all, hasn't he? I just love that type of banker. He's a banker player. If the fee's 100 million, I would be quite prepared to pay 100 million because that's how good he is, isn't it? Alexander Isak is obviously the interesting one. I just don't think winning the Carabao Cup and possibly Newcastle qualifying for the Champions League will be enough. He's 26 years of age. He sees himself as one of the top strikers in the world. So he wants to be competing for more. I believe he's quite keen on Barcelona. It's a big pull for him. Can Barcelona yet again find money from somewhere? The club that has no money? I don't know. The other streets, his boy, the Sport of Lisbon. I don't know, Trevor. Is he a little one-dimensional? I mean, you have to have respect for somebody who scored as many goals as he has. But we've seen this before, haven't we? Scoring goals in Holland, in Belgium, in Portugal. How does that transfer to the other leagues? Benjamin Sesko is a really interesting one. he plays in the Bundesliga, and that is a league that often makes attacking players look better than what they are because of the way that they play in the Bundesliga. And he's not really putting up any threes, Benjamin. Yes, he looks like potentially a great player. But I'm thinking, even when was the Euros, Trevor, 2024? He didn't have a great Euros. Okay, didn't play for a very good team. But I'm just looking, I'm thinking, I see the talent, but please, you need to show me more. I'm not Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. Again, it's a link that I believe is genuine. I think we're going to be reluctant, Trevor. If any club that are quite prepared to sell has a striker that's half decent, they're going to want big money, aren't they? We've got enough proof of that. Dominic Solanke was 65 million. Manchester United paid 73 million for Rasmus Højlund. We paid 85 million for Darwin Núñez. So I don't know whether Liverpool are. So it's either, we go Alexander Isak, and you've got nothing to worry about. Julian Alvarez, you've got nothing to worry about, yeah? Or you find a slightly cheaper option and work on him. And that's where Ekiteke comes in, because his stats are really important. Not his scoring stats, because he's a bit of a snatch at the moment. But I think Liverpool are seeing stats of a guy who's getting somewhere in the right positions on the pitch. And we just got to, so I think Hugo Ekiteke is a really interesting one, Trevor, because he would be a different fee and he'd certainly be different wages. And we like that, Trevor. Liverpool Football Club like to bring him in on relatively low wages. And if you're going to get big wages at Liverpool Football Club, you get him if you've earned it at Liverpool. That's why, I came back from Paris this morning, Trevor, and I was at Manchester Airport and there was 4 Liverpool fans. Jan, Kevin De Bruyne. And I went, well, there's 2 things against that. His age and his wages, yeah? I said, the wages he'll want is obviously for what he's done at Manchester City. Yeah? Well, that's not how we do it. We have given Mo Salah his wages because of what he's done at Liverpool. So even if the next 2 years are not necessarily great from Salah, at least you'll go, yeah, but we've had 7 or 8 great years of him. So I can't see that. So we like to bring in on relatively low wages, and if they do well for us, then we'll improve their wages. And so yeah, I think there's some interesting bits there. And I also think that Ekiteke it's like a Michael Edwards stroke Richard Hughes signing, isn't it? You know what I mean? The potential is there. He's a keen kid, isn't he? So yeah, interesting. I just can't wait, because I just think that we're going to see a bit of movement in the summer. We're going to see quite a bit of movement in this. It's going to be really interesting.
It feels like, the first summer in ages where there will actually be a proper overhaul, because there's a lot of guys who probably have one eye on the door. And I can't believe I've never spoken to you about cars before, by the way, just as a sidebar. I'm obsessed with cars. It's just a big interest of mine. I could go on for ages about that. But there's another guy I want to focus on, just with the whole transfer thing in mind, before we start looking forward to the Arsenal game and the rest of the season, all the rest of it. And that's Harvey Elliott. And I kind of would like you to maybe put yourself in Harvey's shoes and see what would you be thinking? Because there's apparently believable links with Wolves, with Newcastle, both of whom apparently are quite fond of the idea of Harvey Elliott being a player for them. And you get the impression, don't you, that he could do very, very well at any number of Premier League clubs, decent ones too. But the signs are there that he is probably not going to be anything like a regular starter for Arne Slot. And it's a reality he's going to have to actually face, because I think he's played about 3 full matches worth of minutes this year. And when you think about how regular he used to be on the field for Klopp, it's been a bit of a culture shock for him this year. Yes, there was an injury and all the rest of it, but he had loads of opportunities where he could have been playing and he's not playing. I just wonder what you think you would do in his situation, because apparently he's a big red. He loves the club. He's happy at the club, all those kind of things. But where do you get to that point where you have to make that decision and say, well, look, I need to be playing? He's still comparatively young. What will be your take on what Harvey should do here? Because apparently the club are leaving it to him.
Do you know where most players are happy? When they're playing.
When they're playing.
In the end, yeah. In the end, Trevor. And I've seen that at Anfield, with players. And I'm going to mention a player here, which is a guy called Mike Mars. Do you remember Mike Mars?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Mike Mars was a terrific footballer. He was a great everyday five-a-side, top five-a-side player. I always got the feeling that Mike Mars playing for the top team in the Premier League, the pitch was too big for him. I took Mike Mars when I was a manager, and he was my best player by a mile, but I wasn't a Premier League manager, so it was a different level. I get the same feeling with Harvey Elliott. The pitch becomes too big for him. His strength is not reading the game. His strength is reacting to things that happens. And that makes him just that split second slower than a lot of other people. See, I think the strength of some of our midfield players is the ability to feel where to be, where to move, nick in, get there before anyone else. So the pitch never looks... So how do you see Harvey on the pitch, Trevor? Running around 100 mile an hour, That's how I see him on the pitch, Which, of course, is a great skill. He's very, very keen. But I see him running around on the pitch 100 mile an hour because he just doesn't quite, he doesn't quite, I need to be there, and then, I need to be there. But the moment has gone. So I fully understand the support he gets from the fans, because nothing fans love more to see than a young player that gets everything and makes no bones about what it means for him to play for Liverpool. But I just wonder whether playing still in the Premier League, and he can still go in the Premier League and be a great player, but whether the elite Premier League and Champions League is for him, I'm not so sure. And when you compare him,
when you think about his skill set, Jan, it's inarguable that he's fantastic at ball retention. He's a really good passer, and he's very one-sided, but that has not hampered some of the best players ever to play the game. I wonder, do you see a situation where if he was more of the main man for someone, like if the attacking process was sort of filtered through Harvey, like we do with Mo Salah, for example, so he was constantly on the ball and using that passing ability and using that ball retention ability that he has, using that fantastic control that he has, all three things he has all of those. That's inarguable. Pace he doesn't have. Strength, not so much. As you said, the reading of the game, not so much. But in a situation where he didn't have to run around like a blue arse fly, where he was actually the pivotal point of an attack, maybe in a 10 role kind of thing or something like that, or more of someone through whom the ball is filtered, that could really be a situation where he might make his mark. But you reckon, am I getting this right, that if he's going to do that, it's probably not going to be at the top tier?
I don't know whether he'd be able to do that at any Premier League club. I'm not sure it necessarily helps Harvey Elliott to slow his game down, because I do think that he's comfortably playing at the pace that he plays at, because he's technically so very good. So possibly what you're suggesting is that he might be able to do it in the Championship. But the Championship is not for Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott's a Premier League player, you know what I mean? So I actually think that slowing his game down probably wouldn't help. I just think that what you see, Trevor, is kind of what you get. But when you drop, and there is a drop, I think he'll be okay, So, not for me to say, but I'll say what I did when we started this conversation, Trevor. Players are at their happiest when they play, and how many players you've spoken to over the years who were at great clubs, hanging in, by the fingernails, and then all of a sudden they go somewhere, playing, main man, Trevor. You play for the smaller club, but it still means as much to them when they win as it does to Liverpool, isn't it? It means as much to their supporters. They might only have 30,000 in the stands where we have 60, but it means the same to them, doesn't it? You know, so there is a different world out there, isn't it? So if the club is leaving it to the player, yeah, that will make it interesting, won't it? That will make it interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility for some real money to come in for that guy. So
yeah, there will be. Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. Two names I'm going to throw at you just because they are being mentioned in the comments, which I am trying to keep an eye on every so often. That one of them is probably more realistic than the other. The first one is Stiller, and a lot of people like him. And then, you know, as ever, they'll be pointing out strengths and weaknesses. And the other is more of an aspirational kind of a get, I think, in Adam Wharton. Could you just maybe speak about both of those and what you see as their strengths?
I can't give you a lot on Stiller, to be fair, Trevor. I wouldn't be in a position to think I've seen enough to feel comfortable one way or the other.
Sure.
But the other boy, Trevor, all day long. Adam Wharton, what a player he is. And I have to say that I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of ex-pros. And we always, you know, you always like to talk about the next one, don't you? Who's the next one? And I still talk to ex-pros who go, I'm not sure about him. Adam Wharton, they go, I'm not sure about him. And I go, wow. I just see a kid that's destined for the top. He's got a unique way in how he plays. You know, he's got a little bit of everything. He might lack a bit of pace off the mark, yeah? But his ability to read the game negates that, you know. And the passes that he sees, and the fact that he's also gives a nice balance with his left foot and whatever. So that boy is a top player. What a spot that was by Crystal Palace. I remember when they signed him in January 2024, and I was actually doing deadline day for Danish TV, and we were doing a top 5 signings on that day. And I went, please, you know, you got to put this kid in. And they go, well, who's he? If Blackburn, you know. I said, for Aston Villa to pay that type of money for a player from the Championship, that's because they're sure, you know. I said, and I've seen him. I'd only seen him play twice, but, you know, some players you don't need to see 100 times, do you, Trevor? Some players you just need to see, and you go, whoa. But I will make sure that I know everything about Stiller next week. I'll have a little look at it. But yeah, I haven't done my homework.
Well, the received wisdom is that he's very good from the passing point of view, but that if people are looking for him to be this midfield destroyer, blocking passing lanes, doing the monster Fabinho stuff, that he's not that guy. So it's going to be interesting. And again, I'm repeating other people's opinions there. I haven't seen enough of them either. We should finish off with a little bit of a look ahead to what's coming up, which is obviously next up. A guard of honor from Arsenal after their exit from the Champions League, in the wake of some really interesting and sort of semi-delusional comments from their manager. He just seems to have lost the plot a little bit. Certainly seems to have a kind of victim complex going on at the moment when it comes to the injuries and how much everything has gone against them. And it seems to have seeped into the players' mindset as well, because we saw Declan Rice echoing exactly the same thing. I suppose what I'm building up to is it's a weird one now, isn't it? That we've got them at the weekend. We had such a lackluster outing the last time that we'd like to think we'll be back with a stronger team, and really kind of reminding Arsenal that they were never really in a Premier League race with us at all. By way of a good performance and a victory. And you kind of wonder where their heads are going to be at. It'd be quite hard to get back up off the floor, seeing the Premier League, slip away, and then going out like they did in the semi-final of the Champions League. It's going to be interesting to see where their brains are on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it won't be everything in terms of Arteta and Arsenal going forward. But there will be a lot of disappointment they have to deal with. And I don't know this, but they do have some top players, Trevor. They have some really good players who might also be looking at it. We spoke about Alexander-Isak before, and how you perceive yourself, and where you should be. So that's really interesting in terms of how you keep motivating yourself and keep giving it everything. And in terms of Mikel Arteta, I mean, the things he says, Trevor, publicly, it's the kind of things I used to say privately when I was a manager. Because when you talk to your backroom staff, you talk to the players, and you kind of make excuses, don't you? You go, well, this, that, whatever. But when you front up to the media, you put your big boy pants on, don't you? And you go, it is what it is, isn't it? And we try and get on with it. So in terms of the game on Sunday, I just think that Mikel Arteta has an uncanny ability to rub people up the wrong way. And I think there's every chance he might do that on Sunday. That might actually kick the game off, because they've got nothing to play for. Okay, they haven't qualified for the top 5, but they've got Southampton to play. And if they beat Southampton, they will be in the top 5. We've got nothing to play for. But it wouldn't surprise me if Mikel Arteta somehow just gets the game going by whatever he gets up to on the touchline. I actually thought they were a little bit unlucky against PSG. The goalkeeper played really well for PSG. Although it was a little simple, the football, wasn't it? 11 long throw-ins and whatever, and that was kind of what they had. So I don't know. No doubt that we'll be stronger than we were at Chelsea. Some of the big boys that was rested will be back in. What that means, who knows?
Well, the whole idea of what was put out there was, rewarding these squad players and fringe players and lads who didn't get much time. And then you saw the team and you were sort of not sure about that midfield. So most of those guys are going to be back. And assuming we have Mac and Gravenberch and Dom in there in the middle, going pretty strong up top as well, and having a functional back 4, you'd like to think we have every chance of doing a job on them. But from a psychological point of view, this fascinates me. And again, you're in a great position to be able to answer this one for us. It must be really hard not to be what's the cliche, on the beach when you've got the thing wrapped up. It's hard to find that extra level of, go-to energy. And we saw that in the last game to an extent, although I think on a different day it could have gone differently. And they really did just want it more, and they really had more on the line than we did. I was disappointing, but in the context of a week where you've been celebrating, blah, 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 I think professional pride kicks back in now, I would imagine. But I'm only imagining. You've lived this. What is the mindset when the league is in the bag and you've still got some games to play? They don't call them dead rubber for nothing. So it must be hard to motivate yourself for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say impossible, but of course it's not impossible, because it has been proven over the years that some teams have managed to carry on as if nothing had happened. But it's everything, Trevor. It's from the moment you get up in the morning, when there's no jeopardy in it. It is a kind of different approach, isn't it? When you're in the moment, in that moment where you go, this is where it happens, yeah? This is where it's won or lost, now the next 10 games, 15 games, whatever, this is it now, isn't it? And that is part of your whole day then. And that's part of everything that you do. And you would even say things to your teammates that you normally wouldn't say, hey, come on, like Steve Nicol Friday night, 2 pints of Coke and 6 packs of crisps, you'd go, Nico, just have 1 Coke and 2 packets of crisps, we've got a big game tomorrow, you know what I mean? So it's kind of in every minute of every day, isn't it? Before the games, you're walking around, you're shaking people's heads, and you're going, come on, this is it today, isn't it? The whole Liverpool will still go through the routine that they have, but it won't be with the sort of same concentration, you know what I mean, and that same will, to win. It's just natural, isn't it? Because what happens if we lose? I'll tell you what happens. Nothing. And once you take that away, Trevor, things happen psychological.
They do, and it's very hard to argue against that. But I suppose what the big question I have for you is, when you think of lads like Mo Salah, And Mo has something. Look, it doesn't get you any extra shininess in your league medal. It won't make the trophy any bigger. We could, whether we win another game between now and the end of the season. But I was quite invested in us getting 94 points. So losing to Chelsea pissed me off because it's a standard, it's a mark, look, this is better than the vast majority. The next one is to get to 91 points. That would be great. It's putting you in the top bracket. These kind of little things matter to me. Maybe I'm a nerd. Maybe I should have my feet up. Maybe I should be on the beach. But I'm thinking someone like Mo Salah. Mo Salah is looking at a season where he could possibly score 30 and assist 20. And that would be quite the season. And it might be kind of unparalleled. I think it is. Those kind of things are going to drive people on. And if enough players are playing the team where there's something for them, maybe even individually to achieve, whether it is someone like, I don't know, playing their way back into form, or Jota saying, please don't sell me, or Nunes saying, here's why you need me, I'd let it go. I don't know. These kind of factors might come into it a little bit, especially with Salah. You can imagine even people having slight motivation for Mo, because he seems to be a popular lad, to sort of get his numbers to where they need to be. I don't know. Does any of this factor into it, or is that all just sort of airy-fairy stuff, really? I mean, I don't know.
Airy-fairy. Listen, those things that you mentioned, and I look at those things, but I never used to look at them things when I was a player. I don't know what points we got, and I've got a pretty good memory. I don't know what points we landed on in various seasons. I know what positions we ended up in. My first season, second, the second season of one of them, we were second, then we won it, then we were second, then we won it, then we were second, and then we finished eighth. You know what I mean? I know where we finished. I have no idea what points we got to. So yeah, Mo would love to finish for 30 and 20, but he's no longer chasing that with the same determination as he was. And I can't do anything about that, Trevor. That's his human nature.
So on this one, I hold on to the prediction.
Trevor, Sunday, Arsenal, put your feet up and just chill. Yeah?
All right. I'll take your advice. But last one on this, and we'll come back for the prediction in a minute. But last one on this, because I've just seen Electric Dreams there in the chat, reckons he's got a ton on the Arsenal game, so the result really does matter to him. So fair play. I want you to factor that into your prediction at the end.
Okay.
Right. The last thing is just the shortest of questions for you, just to wrap things up. Is there anything left to achieve in these last games? You mentioned the Conor Bradley getting a few games and how that could be very valuable. Do you see anything else that is, and we just mentioned the Mo thing, which is, like you said, it's a minor in the greater scheme of things. But do you see anything really valuable that can be done between now and the end of the season in the 3 games that remain?
Not with the players that we know and the players that's been in and around the first team this season. I think it's been the easiest squad to read in terms of what the manager thinks of them. Club was very different. Yeah. Played players, and every time you ask him about a player, you go, oh, he's fantastic and whatever. You know exactly where Arne stands with these players, and nothing, believe me, Trevor, nothing will change that. So in terms of that, it isn't a case of Endo playing in the next 3 games and being man of the match in all 3 of them, and all of a sudden Arne thinks different of him, because he won't. He's made his mind up. He sees these boys every day in training. So in terms of that, no, I don't think there's anything to be achieved in terms of that. And the Bradley thing, had he not been with Trent, it would have been different, wouldn't it? So we're kind of suggesting and pushing Bradley forward because of the Trent situation. Listen, so I think we've talked about this before, Trevor, haven't we? That Arne likes to make one change, defence, midfield, or attack, yeah, but never 2 or 3. He did it against Plymouth. He did it again on Sunday, didn't he? And he's probably learned his lesson, hasn't he? Gone, I'm not going to do that again. Max 1 change per department, isn't it? So we're going to go strong Sunday.
Yeah, for the record, a lot of lads having a chat about that 1986 Denmark shirt. You've talked to me about that before. What a belter. What a belter it was.
And by the way, let me just tell you, Joe, I couldn't believe it. So we're obviously aware of the shirt, yeah? We turn up at the World Cup training squad in Copenhagen. Everything is in the same design. All the training kit, all the leisure kit, shorts, T-shirts in all sorts of different colours, but the same design. And here's the best, Trevor. The bedding. We took all our own bedding to Mexico and to Colombia where we went in training camp. And it was all in the same design with your number on. It was unreal. And do you know what, Trevor? So we get knocked out by Spain. But by this time, we're like the darlings of the World Cup. You know what I mean? Dinamarca. Everybody wants to know. So we decided to stay one more day because we had our own flight. So we could decide. So we decided to stay one more day to have a day on the beer, you know, to celebrate. You know, it's the first time I've ever went to a World Cup or whatever. And we ended up just giving it all away.
No.
Yeah, we're in Mexico City. So we moved into Mexico City. And we're just sitting there. And people are coming up, Dinamarca, all these Mexicans will think, do you know what? Go over there, you'd already packed your gear. Here you are. Here's a training gear. Here's my bedding, you know what I mean? And I look back and I go, what was I thinking?
Oh, man.
You know, honest to God, some of the lads, Trevor, left with their boots and the passport. Everything else we just gave away. Because it was just so charming, all these Mexicans, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and a lot of them didn't have a lot at the time, you know what I mean? So like, and it was like Dinamarca, you know what I mean? It's like, there you are, you can have it.
I love it. I can't believe.
I would have liked to have had that because, honestly, God, Trevor, man, it was unreal.
I imagine the sheets and everything. That's amazing.
The bedding, Trevor. Honestly, God, I couldn't wait. We went to Colombia. And we checked in. We had a 5-bedroom apartment, and I shared a room with us. I couldn't wait to make my bed. You know, I couldn't make. Oh, it was unreal. Look at this. This is unreal.
Magic.
Spend about 16 hours a day in it. I like to sleep.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Bespoke betting, nice. We'll finish as always with the question to you about the game that you've pretty much told us nobody's going to be that arsed about. So how do you see the one at the weekend gone?
Yeah, I don't know, Trevor. I mean, normally a game like that, you'd go something like 4-2 and whatever. But I think Arsenal not a team that necessarily concedes a lot of goals. And I just can't see Arsenal coming down and wanting to play 2 an open game. So I think it's going to be quite a tight game. So last week I went 2-2, didn't I? There was 4 goals, but it was 3-1. So I'm going to go 2-1. I think Liverpool will beat Arsenal 2-1.
We would all take that very happily. For yet another show, we thank Jan for his time and for all the insights and stories. It's always a pleasure, this show. Nice of you to join in the chats. If you're one of the hundreds watching live, nice to have you along as well. And if you're listening on the listen through afterwards, you're equally welcome. As ever, we try to do the best show we can for you. We've got another couple left before the end of the season, and we will enjoy what we can and have a celebratory atmosphere in them, because at the end of the day, the Reds are champions. Thanks to Jan. I'm Trev. Good luck.